It's always so hard to
Welcome
do
back.
the intro.
Okay. Let's get into it. Welcome back, everybody, to season two, episode two of the Gogurt Zone podcast. Here with my co-host Connor Calzone. We are pumped to be here today to bring you an episode with a mock draft, some sleepers, some bust potentials in each round. Connor, thank you for joining me today. It looks like you got beat up by a fish over the weekend. How you doing?
I am not that weak to get beat up by a fish. I was saying that I was doing some Oklahoma drills with Derrick Henry, and you don't even want to see what he looks like. But yeah,
Yeah.
had a run in with a nightstand. So me and
Mhm.
statutory objects apparently aren't getting
We're,
along this week.
we're happy that you still have a nose attached to your face, and very happy to get your fantasy insight going into this week. We got drafts coming up in a week or two. People are going to be drafting on a very consistent basis. That's why we wanted to put together a mock draft, 12-team PPR, in a way that it seems like it doesn't get emphasized enough. Which is, it seems like to us the standard format is 12-team PPR. So
Yes.
that's what we're going to go over
Fantasy
today.
Focus finally realized, it seems like last week, that 12 team TPR is the standard that people are doing. I guess it's kind of oxymoronic. You're saying PPR is the standard when standard's also a format that people do for fantasy football. But yeah, I have my
Yeah.
first draft on Sunday. In 4 days as of recording this video, I've got my first fantasy football draft. So it's really, really coming up.
Pumped. The season is here. How about we get right into your booms and busts so that we can get to the mock draft for the people at home, the millions of subscribers watching. Let's just get in. Let's get right into
Our
it.
millions of clamoring fans.
Who you got us kick it off with? So for the first round, how many players have you prepared to boom or bust for us today?
So I've only prepared one bust for the first round because I think that pretty much everyone else is in a pretty decent spot. I like how the first five shakes out, and I definitely prefer to be at maybe pick five than pick two because I think that two through five are pretty similar. But I don't have any like huge gripes with anyone else in the first round. Like maybe you could say Devon Achan, you want to see him do that over a full season with Tua healthy. Pick 11's a little high. I like guys like Amon-Ra St. Brown at 12 or Nico at 13 or 14, wherever he's going. But the
Or-
guy who I think is consistently viewed way too high in fantasy football drafts this year is Christian McCaffrey. I know that this is a very volatile player, and I could definitely regret myself for saying this, but last year he barely played. He played, what, maybe in 4 or 5 games. He still did have 350 scrimmage yards in 4 games, but I just don't see a world where Christian McCaffrey is healthy for 17 games this year. You can see in the bottom of our banner that he's projected 18.9 points per game and he's projected to go 7, but that's projected on 17 games of an NFL season. And with the way that
Yeah.
his calves and Achilles have treated him over the last year and a half, I don't see a world where he plays 17 games, and I don't think he's going to be getting 400 touches a year in this Shanahan offense anymore. I think it's more likely that he gets 20 touches a game rather than 30, and I think you have to account for him playing 14 games rather than 17, and I don't think he's as good as he used to be when he was the 1-1 overall in drafts for 2 or 3 consecutive years, where you can really handle him playing 13 or 14 games as your first round pick, and with the potential that he plays 4, 5, 0, who knows.
Okay. So that was actually going to be my first question. I was going to say, how many games do you project him for then? And then that brings up the question is that when he is playing, do you think that he'll be at the same volume that he was in the past? And will that be enough to justify that seventh overall rank going into this year?
I don't see it. I think that when you have guys like even some of the guys in the second round as running backs, if you have guys like Ashton Genty who's basically guaranteed to get a 30 carry a game workload, you have guys like Devon Achan whose efficiency really improved at the back half of last year, and I could see him going for 5 yards per carry in an explosive Miami Dolphins offense. Nonetheless, that this San Francisco 49ers offense should be much less potent than it was in years past, on top of
Well,
his diminished workload.
let's address that though. Ashton Johnson, if he got 30 touches a game, that would be massive. That would be like approaching borderline abusive numbers. That's like that's like no one can survive that kind of touch load. I mean, we've seen top tier players get 20, maybe 25 touches a game, or maybe carries a game, and then they get a few
That's
receptions on
that's more
top of
what I mean
that.
on top of like 30 touches, and that might be a little bit hyperbolic, but like I really do see a world where Ashton Genty's getting 25 touches a game and
Okay,
being an absolute
interesting.
workhorse for the Raiders. I mean,
Yeah, I have.
this is a Pete Carroll and Geno Smith led offense in Las Vegas. They're going to be
This
run
is
heavy.
That's fair. All right, that's fair. So you have Christian McCaffrey too high right now
Hmm.
at position 7 in people's drafts.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Well, what else do you got for us? I know someone that you're going to talk about next. You said you potentially want to fight with him last weekend. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean it's up to the people who were there to say whether I won or lost the fight, but up to people's interpretation. But yes,
There were no
the
cameras.
second round, yeah, no cameras, no. They didn't want to expose him like that. In the second round, I have one boom and I have one bust that I want to talk about. And obviously, we're not going over every single player. And if they're one or two spots above their ADP or one or two spots below their ADP, we don't have all day to be going over that. But someone who I really want to call out in the second round is Derrick Henry, as Ryan was alluding to. He had 1,900 total yards last year, 16 touchdowns, averaged almost 20 points per game. And this was not something like we saw him slow down at the end of the season, or like there's any showing that he's not going to get the same workload that he did in 2024. The Ravens really found a winning formula with Derrick Henry running the ball a crap ton, Lamar Jackson keeping defenses on their toes with his passing and running dual threat ability. And you could
Right.
see on this graphic right here that he's only projected 16.4 points per game, and he's ranked 19 in ESPN's ranks.
It is
He's
surprising.
ranked at like RB10 or something like that. Like
Mhm.
he was a top 3 running back last year, and he gives me like the LeBron James kind of vibe where until he hangs up the cleats, he's going to be elite. And I just don't see any fact patterns that shows that he's going to regress from his 2024 self, and he could
That is a
easily be a
big
top
fall
5
off.
running back again. I mean, this is
Yeah, right.
a consistent RB1 that you could be getting at pick number 19. Like that's really really good value in a fantasy football draft.
Yeah, rank 19, ADP 15.5. So drafters are putting some respect on his name versus Mike Clay's rank of him at 19 overall. But that's a huge drop off. 19.8 points per game down to 16.4, 3.4 points per game less.
Quick
I mean,
maths.
I look at something like his 16 touchdowns, and I see, okay, I could see that falling. Like you could say that was a little high on the variation side of things when it comes to touchdowns. But at the same time, this is a Ravens offense where you can just fall in the end zone that many times. And I agree with you. The LeBron James comparison is fair. It's like no reason to believe that he's going to slow down. This is kind of the kind of player he's been the last 3 4 years, where he's very big and he keeps up with his cardio. He doesn't tweak his hamstring like I do on a regular basis,
Doesn't
and he
tear
just
an
kind of
ACL
falls
like
into
I
the
do on a regular
yeah,
basis.
exactly. The 1,900 total yards is astonishing for, I mean, especially for his age. Mike Clay on ESPN's podcast always talks about how you hit age 28 and there seems to be a cliff for running backs.
And he's
And
going on
last year was,
31.
and last year, I don't know exactly his age, but him, Chris McCaffrey, Barkley, there were just so many guys last year that sort of broke the mold on that. And Mike Clay insists that that's an anomaly year, but I look at a play like Derrick Henry, I'm just like, I don't see it. I think people like maybe this is a factor of just medicine getting better, players taking better care of their bodies, whatever it may be.
I
But my
think it
goodness, I
is. I
mean,
think it is partly that, but also like Derrick Henry's not the prototypical running back. He's not a 5'11
if
guy who's strong but also uses agility a lot, like a Saquon, right? He is just
I mean,
barreling through people, and like he's not losing weight, and like you're not out of your like
all right,
strength physical prime. Like your speed and agility physical prime is on the way out when you're 30, right? But
right,
your strength physical prime, you could still be in until you're 40. Not saying that Derrick Henry's gonna play
right.
to
So
40, but like he's a different mold of running back in a way that lends itself counterintuitively a little bit more willing to be good at a older age, advanced age, we can say.
I agree. I agree. It'll be interesting to see. I'd be very happy to get him in any second round. 10 team or 12 team. I mean, this is something where like if he actually fell to 19, which would be the seventh pick in the second round, I'd be ecstatic to get him. I mean, his
Yes.
ADP is 15.5. So if he was like the third or fourth pick in the second round, that seems about right to me.
Yeah.
But if I'm at that turn, if I'm the 12th pick and I have the 13th pick again, I might just take him right then if I was really in need of a good running back instead of some of these guys like you have Devon Achan going 12, Nico Collins 13, Brian Thomas Jr. 14, like all these guys, and then the only running backs that are ranked ahead of him are Jonathan Taylor and Josh Jacobs.
Yeah.
I might
I
reach
don't
for
see a
Henry at
world where
13.
I'm picking either Jonathan Taylor or Josh Jacobs over Derrick Henry.
If I picked an elite
I'm doing
receiver in the
that in
first
exactly
round,
0 drafts.
if I had an elite receiver like say Amon Ra or Malik Neighbors somehow falls to me at 12 and I'm 13, I might reach for Derrick Henry at 13, just
Yeah.
knowing that I need a running back and I would prefer him over Jonathan Taylor or Josh
I don't
Jacobs.
think that's a reach. I mean, and Amon Ra is ranked 12, I believe, in ESPN. Like it's a very real scenario at the turn. That's
Right.
actually where I'm drafting on Sunday is at pick 12. And I am really thinking and hoping that I can get Amon-Ra St. Brown and Derrick Henry the turn. That
Right.
sounds like an unbelievable wide receiver running back duo.
So Derrick
Anyway,
Henry, 19 ranked overall. I think, and it's very important for our viewers to remember that we probably are the most accurate fantasy football podcast in YouTube history. We really do have to come up with a highlight reel of our amazing takes from last year. So you have to take our word at face value. You have to believe us 100% of the
we
time
are
we are
right
right
100%
about
of
fantasy
the time
football.
about fantasy football. Yes, there's
So that
absolutely
being
no
said, draft Derrick
variance.
Henry.
Yes.
Draft Derrick Henry. Love that take. Next guy I see you have on this list here. Someone that I have paid so little attention to due to his poor performance his first couple years that I almost didn't even notice that he finished last year so strong. So, but I'm assuming this is one of your busts.
Yes, this is a bust, and we talked about it briefly in episode 1, but I think that Drake London is getting drafted too high. I know that he did finish, I believe it was wide receiver 8 or so last year, was very much aided by a explosive week 18, which it's hard to take week 18s and week 17s in fantasy football at face value because there's a lot of teams who are starting new quarterbacks like the Falcons did with Michael Penix. There's plenty of teams who are in and out of playoff contention, resting starters, not resting starters. I can't say I remember exactly what the scenario was for Drake London in week 18, but you have to take that with a grain of salt. But the Falcons are with a brand new, basically rookie quarterback with Michael Penix Jr., who's not necessarily known for his consistency and elite ball placement. He's more of a gunslinger, and he's going to have a lot of growing pains on a Falcons team that is trying to compete. And the other thing that I see here is Bijan Robinson is ranked, I believe, fourth or second, I think, in ESPN rankings right now, and Drake London
Uh-huh.
is ranked 16th. Do we really think the Falcons are going to have a potent enough offense to sustain two top 16 fantasy performers? I just don't see that happening. I think the Falcons are also going to be a very run heavy team. Let Michael Penix
Yeah.
kind of grow through things, having a little bit less of a workload on his shoulders. And Bijan Robinson is so dynamic in the running and passing game that I think he's going to be
Mhm.
getting a lot of touchdowns, which is going to limit Drake London's scoring potential.
Yeah.
So I'm not
I
saying that Drake London's
yeah.
not going to have some boom games. I mean, there's going to be some games where Michael Penix throws for 300 yards and Drake London gets 150 of those and a touchdown, right? But there's going to be games where Michael Penix really struggles. He's going to throw for 120 yards and Drake London's going to get clamped up, especially being the only real marquee wide receiver on that Falcons team. I don't like the inconsistency and volatility of Drake London, and I'm going to be very, very wary drafting him in the beginning of a second round. Like, I'm drafting Brian Thomas Jr. and Nico Collins above him every single day of the week and twice on Sundays.
I like that take. It'll be interesting to see if he just gets peppered with targets again. But I completely agree. I'm yet to believe in Michael Penix Jr. Not that I've paid attention to him so carefully in those few games that he was in last year, but I'm yet to believe the sauce. I'll need a little bit more proof before I really am comfortable drafting him. Definitely not at 16 overall. So, all right, on to the next. This next guy, I have been a huge fan of him. I've had a lot of stock in him in the past. Um, Surprising fall off at the end of last year. What do you got?
Tyreek Hill. Definitely had a very, very bad 2024. Only had 81 receptions, less than 1,000 yards, only 6 touchdowns on the year. Like you see in this graphic here, his first sub 1,000 yard season since 2019. He's been like on that Mike Evans grind of just consistently hitting 1,000 yards. But this comes with an asterisk on it, right? Tyreek Hill is very much intertwined with the health of Tua Tagovailoa. He struggled last year so much because he was catching balls from Mike White and Skylar Thompson and Zach Wilson. No, Zach Wilson was on the Broncos last year. I don't remember.
Oh, no,
A
yeah,
bunch of
okay,
a
yeah,
bunch of
he's on.
backup quarterbacks he was catching passes from, and
Mm.
he also had his own health issues at some point. So you're drafting
But
him,
into
and there's a lot of
uh
risk that comes with it, right? Like you are basically you have to prevent two people from being hurt, and that's Tyreek Hill and Tua Tagovailoa for him to hit on his ADP. But if he does, like he has not lost any of his speed. We've seen the videos of him in the offseason running 10-second 100-meter dashes. He still has the hands that he's always had, something that he's always been elite at. He did not lose any of those things. So there's no regression from a
right.
physical standpoint. The only standpoint where he's regressing from is the quarterback play. And yeah, it's scary having to assume that Tua Tagovailoa is going to be healthy. But if he is, Tyreek Hill is going for more than 15 points per game. We saw what he did in 2023. He almost had 2,000 receiving yards.
Well, that's what's crazy to me is that he had such a subpar year last year with all these quarterbacks, but he's projected to go 1 point per game less this year. Pretty surprising to me. ESPN ranked 25, 2025 ADP is 30.4. So you're looking at possibly getting him in the third round of a 12-team draft. If I could get him in the third round, I think that's an absolute steal. I agree with you. Not the same top five sort of first round receiver that he was in the past, just because of his situation, probably more so than anything else.
Right.
But to not have Tyreek Hill be a second rounder just seems criminal. I don't know. It just doesn't seem right to me. But
It doesn't make sense to
all
me
right.
that you can put Christian McCaffrey at rank 7 after the season he had last year and then have Tyreek Hill at 25. Like, there just
Yeah.
seems like a gap in reasoning there.
And then the last guy you got here, I have a feeling which way you're going to go on this boom or bust. I have a feeling which way you're going to go. I was happy to make this graphic for you because, I know you're a fan, you're a hometown fan, and I want to give you a little love because you know what? You don't always have so much hope on that side of the pond. So, who do you got here?
Side of the pond. I've got Brees Hall here, right? And you're going to, like, Brees Hall did not recover the same way that people thought he would after a 2023 ACL injury. 2024
Hmm.
was his second year off the ACL injury, and that's when you're really supposed to get that big jump in production for a running back. And Brees Hall did not necessarily do that. But he is going at the end of fourth rounds in ESPN drafts, and he did average 15.1 points per game last year on a Jets team that was not very good. And Brees Hall is still a very young running back. I saw a stat on Instagram 2 days ago. He's still younger than RJ Harvey, the Broncos running back, that is projected to be pretty good for the Broncos. I know there's this whole thing about him being like RB5 on the depth chart or whatever, but people have hope in RJ Harvey being a good NFL running back. Brees Hall is still younger than that. And he did average 15 points per game last year, and he was getting peppered with targets in the receiving game. And with Justin Fields at quarterback, a guy who loves to get out of the pocket and scramble and look for opportunities when he's scrambling, you just get a running back on the flat. Like, that's some easy receptions that Brees Hall could be getting. I think he's going to continue to get peppered with receptions, and I think that he's going to score 16 points per game and be worth a mid third round pick. I think ESPN rank
Wow.
of 44 is criminally undervalued just because he is a
Yeah.
New York Jet.
But
I don't see
he's
my
going at that
case.
fourth, fifth round turn. It looks like his ADP is significantly lower than his rank, and they're projecting him to go down 1.4 points per game. I wonder how much do you think this is because of Braylon Allen's resurgence? I don't know if you've been paying attention to the camp news in the preseason. Looked great in that one preseason game. I mean, do you think Braylon Allen's going to come in and just take a couple reps from him throughout this year? You're so confident that he's being undervalued here at that fourth, fifth round turn.
Braylon Allen is a good backup running back in the NFL, but I don't think he is going to like make this a backfield by committee or anything like that. I'm not super worried about it from that perspective. It seems like you might be leaning a bit the other way on my Brees Hall take. I'm curious to see if that's what I'm hearing correctly.
I think it's dependent. I mean, I'd be very, very happy to get him in the fourth round. I think he's one of those guys that has, RB1 potential, like that kind of upside. But you look at having a quarterback like Justin Fields, and it's like, is that going to take away from some of the running upside? And do
You
you have
hating
a
on my
situation?
quarterback?
Is that, but no, it's just a matter of, no, I'm talking about for like rushing attempts. Like
Yeah,
maybe
no, I
Justin
know.
Fields takes away some of the rushes, and you look at a situation like Saquon last year, amazing year, but pretty subpar in the receiving aspect of his game, just because it was a Jalen Hurts led offense and it was a more run heavy or passing to the receivers on a play action type of offense. So it'll be interesting to see. I don't hate the take. I think I could be happy to take him in the fourth round, even early fourth round, especially if I wasn't heavy on the running backs early on. But any finishing notes on Brees Hall or any of your fellow Jets before we move on to our 12-point PPR mock draft?
No, I don't think so. I'm like there's some other guys who I really like in later drafts, but like later in the later rounds. But we can get to that as we kind of get through the mock draft because I can't go through every single player I think is a little bit overvalued, a little bit undervalued in their ADP. So
All right. Well, you know what then? Let's see if we can get ourselves into a 12 team, the same 12 team mock draft in the film. So I'm just reading this Freezing Cold Takes post from May 2022. So this is after Baker got, I don't know, released or whatever, traded, I forget what it was, to the Panthers. So going into the season with the Panthers, when he had that QB battle with Sam Darnold, he
hmm
won the battle, had like a very subpar first six games, and then gets traded after. uh, what's his
to the
face? The
Rams.
coach, I forget the old Panthers coach got fired like mid-season, and then they trade Baker to the Rams, and then he has that crazy Thursday night football game off of 3 nights with the team,
Yeah,
and has like a
that shit
game-winning
was so
drive. And
cool.
so this is the tweet: what are the chances Baker Mayfield is still in the league in 3 years? If the reports are to be believed, he has no respect around the league and blames others for his failures. He also doesn't have any high-level football traits. I think there is a real chance no one is interested and no one gives him another chance.
That's
I love
20.
this shit. This shit gets me fired up.
That's 2024 QB4 Baker Mayfield.
That's Baker freaking Mayfield, man. All right, for those of you just joining, we joined a draft off screen for a minute there. We got Connor in at the third selection and myself in at the 12th selection at the turn, so you can see what someone a little bit earlier on gets, and when you have to kind of feel out that waiting time, that waiting period, and then myself at the 12 turns, so see what it's like to go back to back for the entirety of the draft. But that
Yeah,
being said, we'll be starting in 55 seconds here.
this is pretty interesting. I have not really drafted from the third spot before. I'm a much bigger fan of the turn this year than I am kind of a little bit
Mhm.
earlier in the draft. So
You know
this
what's
is going to
crazy?
be a
I'm in a
little bit different for
16.
me.
I have some very interesting stories I'll share on the podcasts, but I'm in a 16 team keeper league where people get to keep 3 players. And
Hmm.
most people do keep 3 players. So that means 48 players are kind of off the board in the beginning. But if you have one of those earlier picks, you can not keep that person. So say you had Jamar Chase from the previous year. You can choose to not use him as a keeper and then select him again. Now you get to keep him for the next 3 years. So I have
Oh,
Saquon at
I
the end of
see.
I have Saquon for the third year this year, and I'm considering at the seventh pick if he's going to be available, then I could just not keep him, keep 3 other players, and just select him.
Very
So we'll
interesting.
see. We'll see. So with the first overall pick, Robert's rowdy team, anything with an R. I'm usually Ryan's rowdy team, but that was already taken.
Looks like we got a decent amount of autos in here, but that's fine. We were trying to do autos with the
They'll turn
computers
into auto
anyway,
very
so
quick.
yeah.
Yeah, we didn't bother going out and figuring out how to get them to all be bots.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's go through it.
I'm interested to see what happens here with the first 2 picks. Obviously, I would love to get Jamar or Bijan, but those are usually the number 1 and number 2. I'm not as high on Justin Jefferson. I don't really want to take him third overall. And
Guys,
Bijan does fall to me at 3. Saquon goes number 2 for
Saquon
Max's
went
magnificent
too.
team. You can see right there. So I am very happy to be taking Bijan at the third overall pick.
You
Justin Jefferson
got
goes
Bijan number
4.
3.
Jameer
Just the
goes
thing,
5.
we might be on a server with more people in the Northeast that are kind of Saquon favored. You know what I mean? So Saquon goes number 2 overall. Then you take Bijan at number 3. JJ Jetta's at 4. Gibbs at
There
5.
is some discussion about him maybe not being 100% for week 1 because of, I believe, an oblique injury or a hamstring injury, something like that. And he's been having a few problems with that over the last few
Jefferson?
years. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm not too worried. I think an oblique, as long as it's not a severe strain, as a receiver, it's like the going up for the ball, of course, a little bit, but it's
Mm-hmm.
still just not quite. You can like you can get away with not just don't design any jump ball type passes, any like deep balls.
You mean one of Justin
Do a lot
Jefferson's
of.
greatest skills?
No, that's a good point. But like if it's like a drop it in the basket or something like that, you just focus on more like slant type stuff.
I'm not super worried about
Whatever.
it, like him, being awful for the season. But I would not probably have taken him
But
number
let's.
3. I would have, if number 1, number 2 went Jamar and Bijan, like I think it should. I would have taken Jameer Gibbs likely at pick number 3.
Oh, you would have taken Jameer Gibbs at 3.
I think
I
so.
like that.
I'm a
So
big fan
so
of, unless there's a guy like Jamar Chase on the board,
wait. So
I'm
let's
really a
wait. A
fan of
bunch.
taking.
A bunch just got rattled off here, and I'm on the clock now. So we got Jefferson at 4, Gibbs 5, McCaffrey 6, Lamb 7, Neighbors 8, Amon Rod 9, Brian Thomas Jr. at 10, Derrick Henry at 11.
This guy
So
was listening to our
I
podcast right here. Camden was
I
listening to our
love Puka
podcast.
Nacua so much. I'm going to use all my time here since I have both of them. I love Puka Nacua so much, but I'm going to do something else to start, which is something I've never done before. Drafting a rookie with my first overall pick. But I do have a lot of faith in the volume that he's going to get. Ashton Jonty, I think, is going to be an absolute stud. Typically, I like being balanced. I like doing a running back receiver 1-2, especially at the turn where it's a long time before you get your next 2 picks. I love Puka Nacua so much. I have him in that keeper league. Happy to have him in a 16-team keeper league. But in this case, I'm going to switch it up and go AJ Brown, which hurts my soul as a Giants fan, but he is one of the most perpetually undervalued players in the league. I could have
A
reached for other people
nuisance
there.
to have on your team, though. A nuisance. Like, I understand how elite he is, but there are so many games where he babies or drops 5 points. I mean,
But
let me
I'm
finish your.
willing to eat that. I'm willing to eat that.
I think the fact that Nico Collins is still on the board at 2.5 is nuts to me. I think CJ Stroud's going to have a huge bounce back season. I probably would have taken Puka and Nico Collins above AJ Brown. So,
So Puka going, is that 16, 17 overall is a bit of a shock.
mhm.
I wouldn't have let him fall that far.
ESPN
But
ranked
then,
8, I believe, and he goes to 2
right.
4.
So after me at the 13th pick, the first pick of the second round, then it went Devon Achane, Josh Jacobs, Puka Nakua,
And then
RJ
so
Harvey.
this guy's throwing. I mean, he's not actually drafting
Okay,
for real,
somebody
I
here is a
guess.
Denver fan or an RJ Harvey fan.
That's
Because
got to
yeah,
be
look,
RJ Harvey's
the
brother that is on
rookie,
here. Like,
the
you could have
rookie
gotten
in
him in
Denver.
round
We
number
expect great
5.
things for him. But round two, pick five is a little bit shocking to say the least. And then Brock Bowers, round two, pick six. I like that. Brock Bowers actually went in the ESPN War Room League in the first round,
Nico Collins
pick number 10
almost
or
fell to
11.
me at 2.10. At pick number 22, he
Wow.
almost fell to me. And Drake London is eyeing me up right now. Um,
now you gotta eat that buzz
oh, yo,
projection. Are you gonna live it up?
we are in a standard draft league right now. This is not PPR. So some of the rankings are a little bit different.
Okay, edit that part out. Pretend you didn't say that.
I mean, but we
Just keep
are.
going with it. No, just keep going with
We're
it.
gonna
Just
get
keep going.
blamed for it though, Ryan.
By who? We
I
have
mean,
50 viewers.
I'm drafting this like it's PPR, and like we talked about it earlier, Tyreek Hill I think is criminally undervalued at almost the end of the second round. Getting a wide receiver as elite as Tyreek Hill, I am super happy with that.
Mm, not bad at all. Drake London is falling like Shadir Sanders.
Yeah, for
Unbelievable.
real.
So Tyreek Hill goes in round two, round two, pick 11. We also had Trey McBride in there, round two, pick 9. And then T. Higgins just goes at round two, pick 11.
Ah,
And
I
then
would have
rounding
loved it
out
if
round
Bucky fell
two,
to me.
Bucky. So Bucky goes to the person with the first overall pick that took Jamar Chase. So the number one overall pick is Jamar Chase, Bucky Irving as their 1-2 combo. I don't hate it, but I don't love Bucky Irving being my core running back, the main guy that I got to go to. I kind of like having a more solid running back as my go-to.
Joe Burrow also goes first quarterback off the board, which is pretty interesting.
So, some people in these mock drafts just like to play favorites, to be fair.
I mean,
To be
Drake
fair, some
London
people
at
like
this
to do
point
that.
is falling like crazy, but I
I think
don't
so. I
like the
think you and I
stack
can
with
agree that
Bijan
at this point,
Robinson.
Drake, he's at this point he's a value. At this point,
He is a value pick, but I'm not a fan of the stack at the running back wide receiver position, especially in an offense that's not going to be that good. So I'm gonna go with Lad McConkey right here. I'm a
oh, that's criminal,
huge
dude.
Lad McConkey
I
guy.
love Lad, but that's criminal.
Hey
Oh.
man, hey, we'll see who's got the better team at the end. That's all I'm gonna say. I think
And
that
then Drake London finally goes
at 3-5. I
that
mean, that's
looks
a
like
pretty elite team that Caden's got right there. Jameer Gibbs, Nico Collins, and Drake London as your top three. That is pretty darn good. Because Nico Collins also felt like crazy to him.
yeah,
That team is really
yeah,
good.
that is pretty good. Gibbs, Nico Collins, Drake London. Yeah, I really like that for sure. All right, I'm gonna look back at Ryan's remarkable team and plan for my next couple picks here.
Jaden Daniels
But just to
goes as
summarize,
QB2 or QB3 off the board. Lamar actually went right after my pick, and then Jaden Daniels goes to Jason's
right.
scary team.
So you usually expect a little bit of a quarterback run at the same time because you worry that those kind of the big four of quarterback are going to get swallowed up. Devonte Adams just went, and then Chase Brown, and then Jalen Hurts. So Josh Allen's
Josh
still
Allen's
available to me here at pick 36. I'm going to take that like it's nobody's business, but I'm going to take my 19 seconds to kind of plot out my next move because if I don't, I love having an elite quarterback, but if I don't go with a running back with either of these two picks, it's going to be a long time till there's another one.
mm-hmm.
First thing I'm going to do is select Josh Allen because to get the league MVP at pick 36 seems
I
quite
was
good.
very tempted to take Josh Allen at pick three,
The
three
other
point
issue,
three.
yeah. So the other thing I like to do get elite tight ends. And for some reason, George Kittle's getting all the respect in the world this year, and I would love having him. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to stick to my guts, which is to get a running back. And oh man, I have a tough decision to make here. I'm gonna I'm gonna steal your man here. I'm gonna go reach for Brees Hall
Oh, I
and
literally
hope that he
just
pays off
queued
big
him,
time.
bro.
So I want to just justify that real quick. So in summary, my team now quarterback is Josh Allen. My first overall pick, Ashton Jonty, in the running back position. He was the 12th overall pick, my first rounder. Second rounder, 13th overall pick, AJ Brown, and just took Josh Allen, Brees Hall. Having Brees Hall as my second running back excites me. I've got two young guys with home run potential. Absolutely love that. But before we keep going, just a quick summary of round three, going from 1 to 12 in round three. We got Joe Burrow, Kyron Williams, Lad McConkey, Lamar Jackson, Drake London, James Cook, Jaden Daniels, Amari and Hampton, the rookie running back for the Chargers, Devontae Adams, Chase Brown, and Jalen Hurts and Josh Allen to finish it off.
Josh Allen
So
at
now in the fourth
36 is a
round,
steal. I really, really like how your
I'm
team is looking right now.
I
Jaunty,
don't
Hall,
expect that.
AJ
If I
Brown,
had
and
the
Josh
12th pick, I
Allen.
wouldn't expect that.
I
Yeah.
think I think the
You know,
rankings are a little
actually,
bit skewed for a standard draft, but I think that it's, I mean,
yeah.
not impossible that it falls this way. Seeing that my pick is coming up in three picks, there's two left. I really hope that Alvin Kamara falls to me, and he does. Really, really happy about that. I'm going to be taking Alvin Kamara right here. I just think
Hold
that
on.
he has continued to get that insane workload that he's
Garrett
gotten.
Wilson's still available?
Yeah, Garrett Wilson is still available, it looks like, too, and I'm not super opposed to getting that on the turn, if I'm being completely honest.
Garrett Wilson going into the fifth round. That is a name I did not expect to still be there. DK Metcalf as well. I mean, I don't expect massive things from him. Still kind of surprising for him to go in the fifth round to me.
There are two guys who I'm really looking at this 5.3 pick, and that those people are Garrett Wilson and Calvin Ridley. I think Calvin Ridley's going to have a huge bounce back season, and I have my pick at them, which is very interesting to me. Do I
You
go
gonna
with
play
the
the home
hometown
favorite?
guy with Garrett Wilson, or do I go for who
You
I think is going to
gotta.
have an amazing year
You
in Calvin
gotta.
Ridley? I think I'm gonna go. I think I'm gonna go with the hometown kid. I'm sorry, I'm going with the hometown kid, guys. Garrett Wilson. I understand Justin Fields is not the most proven quarterback, and he is more of a rushing threat than a receiving guy.
Right.
But Garrett Wilson, I mean, we saw what he was doing. What he's done his whole career with Zach Wilson, with these backup quarterbacks, with Aaron Rodgers, who did not have a great year last year, and he was still making highlight play after highlight play. If this Jets team is even somewhat competent, which it looks like they are going to be from the preseason game, I think they're going to be at least a competitive team. I think that Garrett Wilson is very, very good value in the fifth round.
Yeah, I mean, I'm eyeing up my next couple picks, and Garrett Wilson, great pick. I really love it. I think that, although it is Justin Fields, who would not be considered a traditional pocket passer, has a hard time producing top tier fantasy wide receivers. Garrett Wilson's just too good of a talent to be falling to the fifth round there. I don't understand it. He's the clear cut wide receiver one in what should be an improved team this year. So I'm excited to see what happens. I think he's going to do much better than that ranking. Um, Unfortunately, one of my picks just got picked a couple picks ago. DeAndre Swift, I was eyeing up, running back
Hey,
in a Ben Johnson led offense
me and you
this
are pretty
year.
similar. I really, really
I mean,
like
there's a reason with
DeAndre
that
Swift
game.
too. Yeah, there's a reason I think.
So I've got back-to-back picks again here. I know who I'm picking next. The one after that is going to be a little bit tougher. So I'm going to take my tight end, Sam Laporta. I think that he started last year a little bit injured. I think he went a
Okay.
little bit underlooked in his sophomore year, and he's going to have a great bounce back year. Now for the next one, I was eyeing up David Montgomery, who I would really love here. I think he's going to fall in the end zone a bunch of times again. The only issue is I already have two running backs. While I wish I didn't take a quarterback so I could have taken my man Baker touchdown maker, I'm going to go for another rookie, a name that we haven't even touched on the podcast yet, Tenaroa McMillan. If you haven't heard his name, you're about to. He was drafted eighth overall in this past year's draft in April. 6'4". I think he's not necessarily the fastest guy in the world. I think he was clocked at like a 4.55, but 6'4", a basketball player type of build, absolutely snags everything, and apparently a very crisp route runner. They drafted him number 8 overall this year to be the clear cut number one in what should be a vastly improved Carolina team. And with their coach Liam Cohen coming over, the former offensive coordinator from the Bucks, who helped Baker have a great year last year, very fantasy receiver friendly. I'm very excited to have Teteroa McMillan
Yeah.
as
I've
my
I've
second
I've
wide receiver.
seen great things out of camp from T Mac, and I think that's a
Oh,
very
T
high
Mac, he's
upside
already got a
pick.
nickname.
Yeah, bro. T Mac's a pretty
Okay.
baller nickname too, right?
Okay.
And
Hell
seeing
yeah.
this sixth round go off the board so far is like my worst nightmare. Xavier Worthy, Baker Mayfield, T.J. Hawkinson are all guys I had queued up, guys I really really wanted, and George
That's like
Pickens
that's
too.
the
I
name
mean
of the
these are
game
these
with
are
these
these are
rounds.
like all the players who I wanted to get to me. I still have a few guys who I'm pretty interested at drafting here at 70 and 75, but we will see how many of them fall to me.
I've
Well, I
got
guess
one
you're
I'm
not
eyeing with
you're
an
not competing
intensity.
with me, but there's two running backs who I'm deciding between, and that is Tony Pollard and Isaiah Pacheco. I think Isaiah Pacheco is going to have a huge bounce back year in a much
Going
improved
below
Kansas City
Pollard. Interesting.
in a much improved Kansas City offense. I think that Kareem Hunt's going to have much less of an impact on the offense as he did last year. Isaiah Pacheco is going to reclaim a significant 1A in the backfield, and I am going to take Isaiah Pacheco here at the end of the sixth round.
No, I don't hate that. But I think you make a risk here, which is there's a couple tight ends down that board and a few spots that I'm eyeing up here. And I'm like, if both of them come off the board, I'd feel really bad for you. Very underwhelming years from them last year. I think both were a fluke. Mark Andrews and Travis Kelsey
Yep.
ranked 83 and 84. I mean, we're talking about what is that, the seventh round now they'll be going into? I mean, that's insanity to me. These are two players that we were arguing over them going, you know, I mean, Kelsey
Round
has been a
three
fluke
last year, yeah,
in the past, but
and
but
and
the
that's
potential
that's
round two, round three players.
that's a really good point because I do have Travis Kelsey queued up. Do I want to go with the stack of Isaiah Pacheco and Travis Kelsey? Is something I'm going to have to decide if it comes to me there. I was thinking tight end for this position. I don't love any of the wide receivers left there. I mean, Jerry Judy, I think, could have a decent year. Jacoby Myers, I think, could have a decent year as being the wide receiver one in a Vegas team that should be better. But Mark Andrews goes off the board, and I
Mark
think
Andrews
that
goes off
kind of
the
tips
board
my hand.
at
I
pick
think I
74.
have to go with Travis Kelsey right here because looking at the
There
rest
you
of the tight
go.
ends, Evan Ingram's a guy who I could see being decent. Like you could always get like the Kincaids or the what's it, Ferguson on the Cowboys. Like they're guys who probably will get you some touchdowns sometimes. But as a guy who's going to be peppered with actual targets, not just end zone targets, I think I have to go with Travis Kelsey. And like I said, I am not a fan of stacks. I've never been a fan of stacks. I think it limits your
Mm.
upside, it limits your ceiling on a week to week basis just too much unless the team's exploding for 40 points, which the Kansas City offense can do this year. But I don't hate the 6-7 turn right there for me with Isaiah Pacheco and Travis Kelsey.
You know, I'm eyeing up a very specific player right now. There's a couple in this range that I really like, but there is one that if I get him at 84, I will be over the moon. Um, he switched teams in the offseason, and man, oh man, do I want him so bad. Let's see if he goes off the board. So Brian Robinson Jr. just went off the board at pick 79. Brian Robinson Jr. Do you and David Montgomery? I mean, did you expect those two running backs to go that far down in the draft?
I think that this is being a standard draft with them not getting the amount of receptions as other running backs do. Dave Montgomery and Brian Robinson, their ADPs are slightly lower than we would see in a PPR
I figured it
format.
would be higher because they're not reception heavy running backs.
I guess you're right there. Actually, they're more of what they are in standard
Right.
than they are in PPR. So very
But some very
interesting, I
interesting picks here.
guess.
So Tyler Warren just went in the seventh round, and to finish off the seventh round, I am so grateful this man fell to me. I'm going to finish off my flex position, my starting lineup, with the former Triple Crown winner, new Seattle Seahawk Cooper Kupp.
It's a guy who I
People
don't know what to
insist
think about.
Jackson Smith and Jigba is going to take over and just be like the number one guy, and he's just going to be this stud. You know who's been a stud? Cooper Cup. Cooper
Oh,
Cup's done
but
it, and he didn't
he
just
was
do it
not
on
a
his
stud
team.
last year. Puka Nakua, who I think is at a
That's
maybe he's better
fine.
than Jackson
No, don't
Smith and
even
Jigba,
worry
but
about.
like
I'm not worried one bit. At that value, I'm great. I have no idea who I'm picking next. This could be a terrible mistake. Chris Godwin, let's fucking roll. I had Godwin
I
last year,
I do not
and
think that
I
Godwin
was.
is going to have a good year this year. I am eyeing up
I mean,
Emeka
he's coming
Egbuka.
off a big injury. I don't. I should have read up on the extent of his recovery. I'm actually going to look at it right now. But Chris Godwin is one of those guys that just had such a great connection with Baker. He was actually the clear-cut number one the first couple games last year before he got hurt. He was going off before Mike, until he got hurt, and then Mike Evans kind of resurged later on. But let's see. He started on the pup list. He shifted to reserve pup. He'll have to sit out a minimum of 4 regular season games before being activated. The 29-year-old wideout is recovering from a dislocated left ankle. We knew that. Yeah, unfortunately. His recovery is on track, um, but there's no timeline to return to practice quite yet. Um, but yeah, looks like we should see him no earlier than week 5. But if he can come back to 80% of what he was last year, that's someone that I'm happy having as the first spot on my bench. If this is someone that could get me 10 points a game, 5 receptions, 50 yards, 4 receptions, 60 yards, a touchdown here or there, more than happy having him be my first player on the bench. And I love having a little stock in the Buccaneers while Baker's their quarterback. So I see you're on the clock here. Pick 94. What are you
Yes,
thinking?
I really, really wanted Jacoby Myers to fall to me at basically the end of the 8th round. I thought that value would have been really, really good. But there is a guy, despite me talking not great about the San Francisco offense, there's a guy who I'm really, really excited to take, and that is Jawan Jennings. I am really, really high on
Right.
Jawan Jennings. He had some really breakout
We
games
were
last year.
considering taking him.
He really had some
Yeah.
breakout games
Yeah,
last
yeah. I
year,
mean,
and
you
he's
were.
basically going to be the wide receiver one until week 6 at the minimum when Brandon Ayuk
Yeah.
comes back. And he, first of all, got hurt last year, and he's coming off of a major ACL injury or Achilles injury, one of the two.
Yeah.
And he was not that good when he was playing. Like, I think Jawan Jennings at the end of the 8th round, someone who at least for half the season is going to be a wide receiver one and then maybe eased back into a wide receiver two role. I like that a lot.
Hmm. So you know what? I am getting a big realization here. I'm seeing a lot of running backs that I'd be more than happy to have as a flex, let alone be my second or third bench spot, which it looks like is what these guys are going at. There are a lot of running backs I'm learning deep in this draft that I'd be happy having that are either the clear cut number one on their team, but kind of a lower running team, like a not very good offense type of deal, which matters a lot, of course. But the clear cut number one's going at 100 overall or later. And then the other thing I'm seeing are backup running backs with the upside of an RB1 if their starter gets hurt. I'm looking at Rashad White ranked 120th right now. We've just decided it's set in stone, but Bucky Irving's just going to get all the volume and he's just going to take over. Bucky Irving goes out at any point. Rashad White is back to being running back one on a Buccaneers team that is very fantasy friendly.
And
So,
I took a guy
I
similar
mean, a
to
lot of
that,
interesting picks here.
J.K. Dobbins. I just took with my 9th round pick while you were yapping, and he
That's another
is
one,
listed as
right?
the RB1 on a Denver team right now. That is a pretty good offense, and they did utilize the
That's
running
right. I mean,
game a decent amount last year, despite not really having a good running back. I mean, they were running out Jaleel McLaughlin and guys like that with significant touches
right.
per game, and J.K. Dobbins, at least in the first
I,
half of last year, had a really really good year. Although I
I'm gonna
would have
take an
preferred.
old head,
Who are we taking? Austin
Austin
Eckler.
Eckler.
That's not the guy I would have taken. I think that I would have taken a shot in the Jacksonville backfield or on Tyjae Spears, but I understand the
So
pick.
that's one, and then two, right? Both Jacksonville running backs so far down, probably because they're so indeterminate on who's going to be taking over. I'm going to take the guy that did it at least once in Travis Etienne. It kills me that I'm not taking Rashad White here, but you're looking at a starter in what does have a very like fantasy friendly players on their offense in Jacksonville with Brian Thomas Jr. Travis Hunter, in my opinion, went way too earlier, but I think there's just so much hype around him
Mm-hmm.
that that's hard not to be excited about having him on your team. And Trevor Lawrence, I mean, you're looking at a team that didn't do well recently, but has all the talent in the world. If you have one of these running backs emerge as the clear RB1, you have you have you know all the
I
opportunity
am
in the
two
world.
picks
Just for
away, and I am
our
licking my chops if Tank Bisbee falls to me. I think he's going to be the one that
take
takes
Bigsby.
over in the Jacksonville backfield, and I think that I could have
You think
a
so?
starting running back in round 10.
Hmm.
Oh, and
All right,
he
so
goes off the board.
he
Ah, that is
goes off at 117.
unfortunate. I am going to take Tajay right here then, and then I think that we go one more round until the end of round 12 before we cut it off, and I'm going to take my quarterback, who I wish was Drake May, who just went off the board, but I'm going to have my pick hopefully on Jared Goff or Jordan Love, and I'm not too upset about that. I really would have liked to take a
Not sure I'm getting
quarterback.
your audio here, Connor.
You're not getting my audio?
There we go.
Okay.
There you are. It was just for like the last like 5 seconds.
I don't hate Jordan Love or Jared Goff as my starting quarterback. They were both more than serviceable last year. Um,
Did you just wait that long to take your
I
quarterback?
really
Oh
would
my
have
gosh, you still don't have a
I
quarterback.
really would have preferred to take a quarterback earlier, but when I was debating it in the third round when I took Lad, I ended up passing on Lamar and Josh, which I think in retrospect I would not have
You could have
done.
had Drake May. You could
I
have had
really
Drake
wanted
May.
Drake
And just for
May.
those who are watching that don't know, besides having an actually competent offensive coordinator now, the new reins at head coach, Mike Vrabel, you're talking about Drake May having elite rushing yards per attempt last year. I
Yeah,
mean, we're talking
one of the
like not
best.
just like someone who got lucky and fell into it. Like he is a genuine athlete. Some of the ESPN guys were saying last year it was like having a Ferrari parked in your garage and never taking it out. Drake May, a lot of upside going into his sophomore year for fantasy football purposes. Someone that we touched on in like our first or second episode ever last year.
Mm-hmm.
I think he was the cover of one of
He
our
might have been the. I think he
episodes.
was the
Maybe it was
cover
the
of the
rookie
quarterback
episode.
episode of the rookie episode. Yeah. I mean, I
Yeah, that
like
was
I
great.
said, maybe I could have switched to Tajay Spears and Drake May. Like I said, this is a very new
Yeah.
position that I'm drafting in. Plus the fact that it's not
So,
quite PPR
right.
rankings. Um,
So we're
I
gonna
wasn't
wrap up in a second
super
here,
familiar.
but when you get this late in the draft, it's very important to think about how you want to construct your bench. Do you want to have a second quarterback as a backup in case your number one guy gets hurt? Um, how many running backs and receivers do you have? I like to just go for the best value here. I'm actually gonna go for Hollywood Brown. I think that he has a relationship with Patrick Mahomes that goes undervalued. Going into last year, they couldn't say enough about him. And then when he did finally come in, he was effective. So I think when he shows up this year, it's going to be great. And this late in the draft, I mean, you kind of want to swing for the fences. I am going to go with Braylon Allen. We talked about him a little bit earlier. I'm
I was
excited to
looking down
have,
there,
I can't believe I'm about to say this. I'm excited to have a New York Jet on my fantasy football team.
talking to the
I
guys.
had
Got
Tyler
Garrett
Conklin
Wilson on his
sub in
team.
as a tight end. I had Tyler Conklin sub in for as a tight end last year a couple times. Not too pumped about it,
Not
but
super
it is what
excited
it is. So
about it.
Connor, what do you say we finish up round 13 and 14 and call it a day to save our audience members the pain?
Yeah, I'm even fine wrapping it up here at 12 or 13. There's a guy in four picks who I'm really hoping falls to me based off my previous pick. Um, but we will see how that ends up
Maybe some
going.
closing thoughts on the players remaining here before these kickers and defenses go off the board. Any
Yes.
last thoughts about these people remaining on the board?
So I'm not usually super excited to draft him, but because I did get Jawan Jennings on my bench, I'm really hoping that Brandon Ayuk falls to me. Pretty much having a safety blanket there in case Brandon Ayuk does come back and he's amazing. Jawan Jennings might lose some of that target share. Having both of them on the team, when it comes to guys like who are generally on my bench, I'm fine having it's one of these two guys who are going to be good. I'm fine taking two draft picks on that. Basically, obviously you
Yeah.
can't guarantee anything in fantasy football, but for all intents and purposes, guaranteeing that one of them is a wide receiver one on a decent offense. So
Yeah.
I'm going to be drafting Brandon Ayuk here, and then probably if it falls to me at my guy who I wanted backup tight end at 147 did not fall to me. I was hoping to get Jake Ferguson. I'm a big fan of Jake Ferguson. On the clock here at round 13, I am thinking about Isaac Garendo in case of his CMC injury. I am
Mm,
thinking about a guy like
not a
Jalen
bad insurance
Wright in
policy.
case of a Devon Achane injury, and he got a lot of hype
Hmm.
going into last season. It didn't end up really coming to fruition. I'm going to take a shot on a guy, Jalen Wright, who we haven't really seen yet. But in the case of a Devon Achane injury, and you never really hope for injuries, but if an injury does happen, I think Jalen Wright does have a decent amount of upside.
Yeah. All right. Yeah,
So
someone that stood out to
let's
me.
go over these teams real quick. I think we could start with.
Wait. I want to give a little rundown of what
All
I got
right.
because I got something cooking here. I got
Okay.
something cooking here. Well, first thing I wanted to point out was Jalen McMillan went off last year. At the end of the year, he really took on that Chris Godwin role. A little counterintuitive as someone who just drafted Chris Godwin, but
Hmm.
he was a rookie with a lot of promise last year. He's got wheels. He's got hands. He's gonna be great. I'm looking at a tight end.
Is it Chig?
I'm looking at an old tight end.
Oh, it's
It's
Darren
not Zach Ertz.
Waller. It's you're thinking about
It's
Darren
Darren
Waller. Get out
Waller.
of here, Giants
Put
fan.
him on
Get
my
out of
team.
here.
I'm a Giants fan, but he's on the Dolphins now, man. I'm just nostalgic, you know. I just miss the guy. And you could go with someone like Will Shipley, but I'm gonna do Jalen McMillan, like I was talking about, the
I think
receiver on
there's
the
another
Bucks.
wide receiver there, Trey Harris, who I'm pretty excited about on the Los Angeles
Mhm.
Chargers. But yeah, let's just go
So
over
then
these
it gets into
teams
these,
really
the
quickly. I think
defenses and kickers.
before we
Right.
wrap up the episode. So for me,
Let's do you
I've
and me.
got Jarrett Goff as my quarterback. I got Bijan and Kamara as my two starting running backs. I've got Tyreek Hill and Lad McConkey as my two starting wide receivers. Kelsey at the tight end. Garrett Wilson as the flex, and I've got Isaiah Pacheco and Jawan Jennings as my top two off the bench. I don't love the team. I don't think the best draft that I've had. I do like the starters. I think I should have taken a quarterback like Lamar or Josh Allen instead of Lad McConkey in the third round, but it was a new experience for me drafting at this position. I've been doing most of my mocks at the turn.
Not bad, not bad. I'm actually using ESPN's new board view where you can see it as like a big board, as if
Yeah,
you were doing it
I've
in
been scrolling
person.
between that throughout the episode here. So
And yeah, this is fun. So first overall pick, I took Ashton Jonty as my RB1, AJ Brown right after that as my wide receiver one, and then at the end of the third round, round three, pick 12, Josh Allen as my quarterback. So I had a well-rounded Josh Allen, Ashton Jonty, AJ Brown start, and then I started filling in the gaps. So I went Brees Hall with the first pick in the fourth round, Sam Laporta 23 picks later with the fifth round, 12th pick, and I was very happy to have him be my tight end. I love having an elite tight end. Tedero McMillan, the exciting rookie out of Carolina, to fill in my second wide receiver spot. And then I was so excited to get Cooper Kupp as my starting flex for the Seattle Seahawks. I think if Sam Darnold can have any sort of year like he had last year, with Cooper Kupp, Jackson Smith and Jigba, I'm sure he's going to get his own, but I think Cooper Kupp is just going to be one of those guys. He's just a vet that's going to route up people, catch 7 balls a game, and just get me 12 fantasy points, and I'm going to be stoked about it. He's going to be a great flex for me. I'm very happy about that. Took a reach with Chris Godwin. He might have had an ankle that wasn't attached to his body at the end of last year, but I'm just a little bit nostalgic. Happy to have him on my bench. Austin Eckler, Travis Etienne, Hollywood Brown, Braylon Allen, Darren Waller, and Jalen McMillan
the
rounding out
only
my
thing
bench.
that
I'm
I
very
do
excited
I
for that.
love your top five, but at 6-1, I really think I would have taken, or at 7 or 8 somewhere, I think I would have taken another running back. I really only see two guaranteed starting running backs on your team, and running backs
It's a fair
are
point.
so volatile in fantasy football. They're much more
No,
prone
that's
to get
that's a fair
injured,
point.
and you're going to have weeks where one of either those two guys run a bye or something like that. Only
That's a
having
fair point.
two
I
really
like
starting running backs you can go between is very, very scary. They're two really good running backs, and I like them a lot, but I really like having a third running back that I can really trust on my team. And me having Bijan,
I do
Kamara, and
too.
Pacheco, I'm much more of a fan of that.
No, I mean I do I like that as well. I'm usually a very running back heavy person, but I think that this year in particular, I just saw so much depth at the running back position. I mean, I didn't do a great job of it. I was pretty confident I'd find someone else later. The other thing to remember is that the team you end with is not almost ever the team you started with on draft day. If any of these receivers hit or anything like that, you make trades. I'm one of those guys that loves to stockpile up on receivers into the season and then going into like the 3/4 way, having 3, 4 really solid running backs so that by the time the playoffs come around, I kind of have a big three essentially because I really like filling that flex position with a running back. But
Hmm.
nostalgia got the best of me this draft, man. Cooper Kupp, Chris Godwin, Austin Eckler, Darren Waller. Hey, Hollywood Brown. I mean, I just went
Like,
for all the old heads.
yeah,
I
I
just
think
said,
at that
screw you.
7-8 turn, I really would have taken a guy like Aaron Jones or something at 8-1 rather than Chris Godwin, and I think I would think way differently about your team if you, even though I don't
But
think
hey,
Aaron
you're
Jones is
you're
gonna be great
you're
this year.
you're planting your flag on Lad McConkey. We gotta give it to you for being consistent on that end.
Hey,
And
hey!
I
Another
love your
great
Travis
take from
Kelsey pick.
the Gogurt Zone podcast last year. I said that Lad
That was
McConkey
a
was
great
going
take.
to be a top 15 wide receiver, and he was, I
That was a
think.
great take.
So that's another
Jared
Gogurt Zone
Goof as your
take.
only quarterback, though. We'll see.
I don't really
We'll see.
mind.
Like,
I'm not a two quarterback draft guy. I don't think that's very smart, especially when a lot of the guys, a
yeah,
lot of starting quarterbacks will just always be on waivers. I'd rather take the backup
yeah,
tight end or just continue taking flags on wide receivers and running backs and
yeah.
stream if you need to on the quarterback or tight end front. But yeah, Jared
Mhm.
Goff was not my preferred quarterback. I really wanted. I do think I should have taken a quarterback in round three. And the other guy I really
Well, this is
wanted
why you do
was
mocks.
Baker Mayfield or Kyler Murray at six
Baker
and
touchdown,
seven,
Baker.
and neither of them just
Right.
ended up
This is why you
falling
do
to me.
mocks. Go out, do mocks, get a feel for what you like, and try out different strategies and see how you like your team at the end of it, so you feel better prepared going into next year. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We got to go over Connor's booms and busts for a couple rounds there. Some of his key players to look out for. We saw it live. We saw Derrick Henry go way earlier than his ADP. We saw Drake London fall to 20 whatever, even
Yeah,
though he was ranked 16 by
people are watching
ESPN.
the podcast. That's all I'm saying. People are watching the pod, and hey, I took a stab on it myself. I put my money where my mouth is and took Tyreek Hill at the end of the second round, which I am very excited about.
I followed suit and took Brees Hall in the fourth round. Not just for you, but a little bit of Jets love, you know, helps the soul.
Yes.
When you don't have much real football to
Mm.
root for over
Well,
there.
also when you don't have much of a soul as a Jets fan. With all
But thank you
that
guys so much
being
for joining
said,
us in
oh,
episode 2
you beat me
on the
to it.
Gogurt Zone podcast. We're gonna fix our intros and outros.
We
It's gonna
won't.
suck always, and then maybe get incrementally better. But thank you for joining us on episode 2. We can't wait to see you on episode 3. If your drafts are coming up, good luck, and we'll see you in the next one.
Peace.